and do like a reading update of all the things I read in November and the stuff I'm going to try to read in December before the end of the year. So I decided to do it a little bit differently this time and do it kind of, instead of showing you the books I read in order that I read them, I'm going to do it in the order that I enjoyed them. So the very first book I'm going to talk about is the one I enjoyed the least this month. Well, actually, before that, I did DNF a book. I started listening to one called Wrong Place, Wrong Time. I was listening on audio, and I barely listened to it, maybe an hour. And I just decided I didn't want to listen to that right now, or I wasn't as interested in it as I thought I was. It's a thriller where this mom is like waiting for her son to come home one night, and she looks out the window and she sees him, so she's like, oh cool, he's like coming home. And I'm pretty sure she like goes out to the front door and then proceeds to watch him stab somebody and kill them. And he goes to jail that night, and then when she goes to bed, when she wakes up, it's the day before the murder. And supposedly in the premise, every day she wakes up, it's like another day before. So she's getting farther and farther away from the death to figure out who it was, why, and all that, and I'm assuming try to stop it. Like I said, I didn't finish it. The reviews I've seen of it are like, it was okay. And so I just didn't want to waste my time listening to it because I wasn't loving it. So I guess that was the worst thing I read, but I didn't read very much of it. So the first book I actually read, we're going to talk about, is Cackle. So this book I've talked about before. This girl, she's in a long-term relationship. He breaks up with her, so she has to move because they live in New York. She can't afford it by herself, so she finds this new job because she's a teacher in this small town up north. And so she moves to this cute little quaint town, gets a new job, starts a new life, meets a new friend, and then the friend, she starts noticing the townspeople don't like her friend, and her friend may or may not have magical powers. This book was cute. I gave it 3 stars. It was just okay. Like, I didn't hate it. I enjoyed reading it, but in the end, it wasn't anything I was obsessed with or that I was like, I'm going to give it to all my friends. It's going to be great. I've heard great things, but I don't know. I wasn't feeling it. It was a cute, like, woman realizes she don't need no man kind of thing. So it was cute in that aspect, and, like, the town was really cute. But other than that, I wasn't a huge, huge fan. Like I said, I gave it 3 stars, so it was pretty average. The next book I read, finally, I read It Ends With Us by Collen Hoover. I gave this 5 stars. So everything from here on, I've given 5 stars. So I had a really, really great reading month. It's probably because it was my birthday. So I had a great reading month. I read this. I loved it. I cried. I'm sure everyone knows what it's about. There's an abusive relationship in here, and I thought that, I mean, obviously it was hard to read, but I enjoyed how it showed how hard it can be to leave those relationships kind of thing. I don't know, like, I was torn up inside myself, and I wasn't even going through this. Like, I was like, I can't imagine, like, loving someone as much as she did, and then they start to hit her, and then she's having to, like, what the heck? And then, of course, her parents, she watched her mom go through that her whole life, and she was like, well, I will never let that happen to me. And then, of course, it starts happening to her, and I was just torn up about it. But when it says It Ends With Us at the end of this book, I cried. I was reading it at work, of course. I finished it at work one night, and I was just, like, crying at work. It was fine. But I did really enjoy it. I'm very excited to get to It Starts With Us, but I haven't read it yet. The next book I read on my Kindle. So I have my cute little Kindle here. I recently got this so that I can read all my Kindle Unlimited books on it. But I don't think you'd be able to see it if I pulled it up. But I read it on my Kindle. I read Phantom Limb by Lucinda Berry. So I had previously read The Perfect Child by her, and I really enjoyed it. And someone at work was telling me all these books that they really liked the endings of. And Phantom Limb was one of them. And I was like, wait, I think I've seen that on Kindle Unlimited. And so I downloaded it and I read it. It was great. I gave it 5 stars. The twist at the end blew my mind. It was just a really good book. So this one is about, we follow this girl, and she lives with her twin sister. They're like 21, I want to say. Growing up, they had a terrible, terrible mother who abandoned them and neglected them, abused them. It was awful. They got out of that situation and they were adopted. So it's this 21-year-old telling us about her childhood, telling us about her growing up, and also trying to deal with that now in the present day. Like, she's getting in a relationship. Her and her sister have a very close relationship, and she's afraid being in a relationship will make her sister upset, and other things happen, and it was just really, really good. I really enjoyed it, and like I said, the twist at the end really got me. Got me good. 5 stars to that one as well. And I'm pretty sure all, if not a lot, of Lucinda Berry's books are on Kindle Unlimited, so I'm going to start just going through those. So I'm very excited. The next book I read, I listened to on Audible. It was Blindsided by Karin Slaughter, and that was in the Grant County series. I think I've also already talked about this one. It starts off with this woman. She's at a diner eating lunch with her sister. She goes to the bathroom, and one of her, I wouldn't say friends, but someone in their little town is in the bathroom, like stabbed and bleeding to death on the toilet. And she is the town doctor, tries to help. She can't be helped, but she's also the town coroner, so she has to do the autopsy of this body that she found. And it's her perspective, it's the sheriff's perspective, and another cop in the town's perspective throughout the whole book. And they're trying to find out who killed her, and there's other bodies piling up. It was really, really good. Gave it 5 stars. It's very dark and twisted, but it was really good. If you can handle some dark stuff, I highly recommend it. I really loved it. So then I picked up the second one in the series called Kisscut. I listened to that one as well. And it's a whole different case, but it's the same town, same doctor, same sheriff, same cop perspective they're following. It's just a different case. They talk about what happened in the first one a little bit here and there, but it's not necessary by any means. I think it would help you understand what was happening. Like, when the sheriff and the other cop are talking about what happened in the first one, it would just make sense if you read it. But like I said, it's not necessary per se, but there just might be a little bit of confusing dialogue in the second one if you haven't read the first one. This one was, honestly, it may have been more dark and disturbing, but I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. And then the next book I read, I'm technically still reading it, but I'm almost done. So it is currently November 26th, but I work the next 4 nights, so I wouldn't be able to film before I need this up. So I'm having to film it a little bit in advance because I work. So I will finish this before the end of the month, so I'm just going to talk about it now. Jar of Hearts by Jennifer Hillier. I'm loving this book. Unless something terribly goes wrong in these last few pages, I will give this 5 stars. We're following this woman, and when she was in high school, her best friend went missing. Present day, they are arresting her for helping in the murder. And the guy she helped was her boyfriend in high school, and he has since then become a serial killer. And he is called the Sweet Bay Strangler because he strangles people, whatever. So she goes to jail in the very beginning, so that's not ruining anything. She goes to jail, but while she's there, the guy gets out. So more people start dying, and they're asking her because she knows him the best, they think, because according to them, she is the only one who's been in a relationship with him and survived. So they're trying to get her to help them figure out where he's at. Very good. Very dark. And it also goes back into the past to kind of lead up to how her friend died, how she met this guy, got in a relationship with this guy, how that was all that. So it does time jump a bit, but I really enjoy it. There's also a cop perspective in this one. It's the sheriff of the town who is arresting her and trying to find this serial killer. But I don't know what happens in the end, but like I said, unless something goes terribly wrong, I will be giving this 5 stars. And I want to read everything else by Jennifer Hillier now. So, this book's so good. Very dark, once again. Almost everything on this list is pretty dark except Cackle. It Ends With Us, I would say, is like baby dark. If you don't like reading about abusive relationships, I guess you could consider it dark. But other than that, it's a romance, kind of. But everything else is pretty fucked up in this video. So do with that information what you will. Now for December, I'm not going to put too many books on this list because it's the end of the year. I don't know what it's going to be like. But the first book I would like to get to is It Starts With Us. I got this for my birthday, and so I really want to get to it. It is like, the cover of this, it's just a thick book for a paperback. Like, it just feels different than the first one. But I'm very excited to get to this one. I know it is the relationship, I think, between her and Atlas, and then I'm sure Ryle's in there as well. But I don't know a whole lot about it other than that, and I'm very excited to get to it. And I don't want to talk about it too much and spoil it. The next book I want to get to is Gleanings by Neal Shusterman. I also got this for my birthday. And it is a collection of short stories in the, like, Scythe world. Or Arc of the Scythe is what the trilogy is called. The first book is called Scythe by Neal Shusterman. I read that trilogy a while back. It's one of my favorites. And he just came out with this. And it's a bunch of short stories, so I'm hoping it's like after the fact of the third book, and like we get some stories of what happens after. But it might be from the past and how this whole world came about. I'm not really sure, but I'm very excited to get to it because I love this like world, I guess you could say. Yeah, and mine is signed. I'm very excited about that. Signed. And I love him. And the last book I would like to get to is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy. I just got this back recently from a friend I let borrow it, and she said it was so good and that I need to read it. And another friend of mine has told me I need to read it ASAP, so I'm going to try to read this by the end of the year because I've told a lot of people I'll read it soon. So I need to actually do it. Jennette McCurdy, of course, was on Nickelodeon on the show iCarly. So this is about her childhood with her mother and what happened to her while she was on Nickelodeon and after Nickelodeon. And then, of course, her mom did pass away from cancer. And so it's just kind of like her dealing with that. Because obviously it's sad it's her mother. She loved her mother, but also her mother abused her. So there was also relief in that. So I'm sure it's her trying to describe that feeling. Because I'm sure a lot of people probably... Some people obviously have probably gone through similar feelings, but it's not a common feeling one feels, so very excited to get to this one as well. Drink every time I'm very excited was said. Are you drunk? Just kidding. But what books did you read in November? What are you planning to get to before the end of the year? Thank you so much for watching.